Ladies and gentlemen, it is still Spirit Week here at PHNX Studios, and we have a special guest.
Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats podcast, special edition for Spirit Week 2025. We are here in lovely HQ2, PHNX HQ2, I should say, in downtown Phoenix. I am Damon Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas. And Kevin, we do have a, as you said, special, if you will, guest off the top of this show. And he's a busy man, so we don't want to take too much of his time. Let's just go ahead and pop him on screen now. Eric Ruby from the PHNX Sun Devils podcast. I, of course, went on PHNX Sun Devils earlier and talked a little bit of football, because I think Kevin, I don't know if this comes as a shock to you, but they really only kind of like talking football over there on that podcast.
What?
And everything on that podcast.
I like to be a person that can grow, can change the way that I felt about previous situations and put his hand up and say, you know what? Sometimes we don't get them all right, Eric. We don't get them all right. And,
what I love?
What?
This is how I'm getting you to start your show.
I felt like I was the bigger man.
Yeah, you were. And I told you I'm going to be nasty.
And that's all good. You may remember Eric Ruby, of course, of fame from his horrific diss track that he threw at.
Do you want
Arizona
a live performance?
Wildcats. If you want to
if
you want to embarrass yourself like that in front of the people live on air, that's perfectly fine.
Listen, man, I'm waiting for your diss track on ASU.
It will never ever happen, I fear. But Kevin, how are you feeling about having this guy on next to me?
Indeed, Eric is on the podcast today, Damon. That's how I feel about it. I do love Eric Ruby, but he has some questionable alliances and allegiances, and I can't really get past that on all fronts. You know what I mean?
Well, Kevin,
because everyone at home knows you can't really be friends with someone if you went to a different college.
Yes.
So the idea that me and Eric would ever hang out outside of work or
it's
talk about things not sports related that don't end up in blood and bath arguments, it's foolish.
No, people don't know this. We actually all hate each other.
Yeah.
We don't speak to each other. It's really awkward.
I spit in Eric's direction and Totri's direction.
I spit in this coffee that's right here. This coffee right here has my saliva in it because I don't like this guy. Right?
Full disclosure, we were supposed to have the king agitator of Arizona fans, Anthony Totri, on the show today, but he is so scared he didn't even show up for work today.
I think it's tough that I'm like the backup hater.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like I got to really bring the heat.
You do. But you also, like I said, like we mentioned with the diss track, you did kind of play your part in getting yourself involved.
Sure.
In the
but
discourse.
I will say, I think I have more level-headed takes on this type of stuff. I think I can look at more of the sports, just like when we talked about football. You can listen. I'll hand up on the Sun show. I said I would love if the Suns drafted Carter Bryant.
You did.
He's on my top 5 targets for the Suns to trade up and draft. I think Carter Bryant is great as an NBA player. I think he was god-awful in college. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We'll get into the sports discussion here in a second, but real quick before we do, I wanted to say we do have a little bit of a challenge going on that Eric and I, live on air, decided, and unfortunately got Kevin and Totri involved in as well as strays, but if we do not beat, what was the total, Eric?
We raised $142.
$142. We have a donation link. It is on the side if you're watching on your phone or online. It should be just right there on the side of the show on YouTube. But yeah, please do donate. We need to beat that $142 number because if we do not, Kevin and I will have to wear some form of Arizona State apparel on this show.
Yep.
And that would be disgusting. And please, please, please donate money out of your pockets. I think,
Save us, bro.
there's a decent chance that there comes a point in this show where I
you just donate 150,
throw in a nice little donation.
It's for a good cause.
So yeah, please.
What's stopping us from just splitting it like 73-73 and just going down the middle?
Kevin, that might be worth it to me, frankly.
I think Gerald said $73 is stopping us from doing that.
I mean, that's
Damn,
true.
Gerald.
That's true. But I will say, we do have a contingency here in the chat right now. We have enough where, you guys even donating like $5, $2, like anything helps. And it is for a good cause for Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America, which we're so excited to be partnered with here at All City. We got an internal goal from the whole company of 10,000. I'll be honest, guys, PHNX, we're a little bit lower on the totem pole than we want to be right now. We need to up this up and to, kind of do our part in terms of helping a charity that does a lot of great work here in this country. So please just donate like $1, $2, $5,
$1,000.
If you want it in ASU, they had a big donor on their show. That would go a long way if you guys could, if one person just wanted to step up and just be like, listen, man, I got it like that, and I'm ready to help the people.
Just saying. If that's you, you can also hit up my Venmo.
Who's a big baller? Who's a big baller in this chat? That's what I'm gonna look in the camera. I'm gonna ask.
You don't got your money right?
Yeah, who has it like that? Somebody step up and show me that you got it like that.
Wow. I mean, you could also do it because you want to help out children. You want to give a kid a friend or an ear to lend, you know what I mean? Or you just want to prove that your pockets are full. I don't know.
Sure.
For whatever the point is, whatever equation you use, the answer to the equation had better be you donating to Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, because that's what it's all about. And we
Kevin
are trying
really
to
just like that was like a situation where he was just like, I want everybody to know that I am the good guy of
this
podcast.
No,
that's like out of his way to say it too. Like, these guys suck. Like, these guys are mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Am I the mystery chairs guest? What's happening here? Like, are you guys teaming up? What's happening here?
Yeah, that's a good point, Kevin. I'm sorry about that. I will say, regarding Michael's comment here in the chat, yes, they do the other way around. I know I spoke about it from a negative sense. I guess that's what makes me a glass half empty kind of guy. But the glass half full side of things is, yes, if we do out donate them, they have to wear UofA gear. They actually get to switch out their horrific colors, their horrific uniforms for something nice and pretty that makes them probably look real nice. Kind of sounds like a positive now that I'm laying it out. I do look good in blue.
Eric. I will say this. I do look. Blue is one of the colors that match my very pale palette. So,
that felt like maybe like a reverse psychology type of thing, right?
No,
there. Like,
I'd hate to look good on stream.
Yeah. Please donate a couple $2 to a good cause. And like I said, the link's right there on the side of this show. Has been all week, and it will be for the rest of the week here. But Eric, we do want to talk some ball with you before you have to attend to your very busy Kevin Durant revolving schedule.
Yes.
And I think just right off the bat, let's talk about UofA winning the Territorial Cup. So 3 years in a row, Arizona has taken down ASU in the Territorial Cup, meaning this is the full standings of every sport. What do you have to say for yourself as a representative of the vastly inferior university?
Wow. Okay. Vastly inferior university. Lil Birdie said that the actual Territorial Cup itself, even though you guys have won the Territorial Cup, has not actually been picked up from Tempe and taken to Tucson for the last couple of years. So that just shows how much you guys really care about this. It's all talk. But when it actually comes time to really stand on business and have pride for your university, well, I'm wondering where that is. Also, at the same time, there are some people, now I'm not saying I'm one of them, but there are some people who say the Territorial Cup itself is just the actual Territorial Cup game, and the only game that's labeled as Territorial Cup happens to be football. So to flip that back on you, how does it feel to be the vastly inferior program and to not have the Territorial Cup this year?
I will say that your guys' long, hard, working win streak that you've had of one season, I'm sure that means everything.
And as you guys know, that always leads to more success going forward.
Well, I'm just saying that, it's like I can hardly even remember the last time that we beat you guys in a football game. I mean, what was that? A calendar 13 months ago or whatever it was. Like, man, dude, that was
13. I don't think it was 13 months ago.
Yes, it was longer than that, but it was like 16 or something in that range.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
I told you I was going to be nasty. No.
We could split hairs all day. Eric.
No, I mean, listen, we can. You guys had your one magical season, and then your head coach, your head coach that led you, the head coach that led you decided he wants to go to smelly, stinky Seattle instead, and join the chat as well.
Is it what?
It was smelly, rainy.
Yeah.
Smelly, rainy. Yeah. I mean, either way, still left, right? I mean, you were telling us on the UofA on the ASU show that you would have taken a bullet for Jed Fish. Now, see, I would take a bullet for Kenny Dillingham, but here's the thing, right? He's not leaving, right? You can clip this. This is not going to be on Frosty Cold Takes presented by Wendy's. Okay.
I wish we had a solo shot on this man right now.
Yeah, you wish, but Kenny Dillingham is not leaving, and he's going to be a thorn in your side. And you know what's awesome? He's like a thorn in your side that you guys keep pushing in because you love him. Like all of you guys like Kenny. I have not met a single UofA fan that's like, you know what? I don't like Kenny. You all love him. Love him to death.
To death is kind of crazy, but I think
you would take Kevin. You would take a bullet for Kenny Dillingham if you had to.
Why would I do that?
Absolutely
I know
not.
you would.
Why would I do that?
I know you would.
I do. I will say
he's a father.
I
Kevin.
unfortunately do like.
I'm not a father. What about my future?
Eric? What is your response to this? What is your response to this?
Your tweet saying hearing rumors of Kenny Dillingham.
This is coming from a very high quality, reputable journalist who's made a name for himself in the industry. And he said, hearing rumors of Kenny Dillingham taking a phone call with Ohio State's AD at halftime of the Big 12 championship game, something to keep an eye on. Stay tuned. You just claimed that he would never leave ASU.
He won't.
But
I mean, he would never leave.
This seems like a pretty,
Yeah, no, at Damon Dog, who by the way, at Damon Dog, who would never go back on an opinion or a take, especially one revolving around the university that he holds so dear to his heart, never would go back and say that he was wrong about calling Jacob Kongaika a loser for planting the pitchfork on your home turf last season when we kicked your ass in Tucson. Nobody, that kind of guy, he would never say that. But, I would be worried about it if the Kenny Dillingham extension that he also signed like literally the morning of the Peach Bowl didn't also include the fact that every time he wins a minimum 6 games, he gets an automatic year-long contract extension to stay in Tempe. The dude wants to be here, okay? Don't put your trauma on us. Don't put your Jed Fish trauma on us, okay? Kenny Dillingham's going to be here for the next 15 U of A football head coaches.
I will say that I agree that probably is going to be the case, and I agree that Kenny definitely wants to stay in Tempe. But I will say that a lot of coaches have that extension per year in their contract where they would still leave anyways. That doesn't really mean anything to me. But I agree with you that Kenny is going to be the long-term coach. And yes, I am trying to speak it into existence that he goes to a bigger and better football school. But getting back to the Territorial,
right? I think this is a massive win for me. The fact that we just are talking about football. This is a massive
Eric,
win for me.
I'm counting here 5 and 6 years. I mean, what the hell is going on in Tempe in that athletic department?
Yeah.
You're getting owned year in and year out, and the margin is only getting worse. This year, 14-8, Kevin. We almost doubled them up in sports this year.
How many?
And all they want to talk about is one sport.
How many Big 12
Meanwhile,
championships
there's
do you
an
have?
entire athletic department where we uplift women's athletics. Eric, have you ever heard of?
Oh,
such?
Actually, we have. In fact, have you seen the buzz behind Molly Miller's ASU women's basketball
at
Arizona
State
softball?
of Arizona? And that's probably a big reason as to
why women's volleyball is one of the best teams in the school.
Because we invest in women's athletics, but that's just what we do in Tucson.
What money do you have to invest in $200 million in debt?
Hey, they're trying to be financially stable by 2026.
Financially stable by 2026? Dude, you guys are negative 2026.
What if I told you that ASU had more financial athletic department debt when that happened?
What if I told you that I don't care?
Yep, there we go. And that's how the argument is done. But yes, 5 and 6 years Territorial
That's
Cup.
awesome. You guys still haven't picked it up from Tempe, so it really goes to show how much you care about it. How many Big 12 championships do you have?
A big part of that.
Just wondering.
Multiple.
Wondering.
Multiple.
1, 2.
Well, we
not
won
3, not 4.
We won in baseball.
Okay, 1.
The most recent sport that happened.
1, right. Okay, so 1.
Kevin, when's the last time you said a word on this podcast?
I'm just letting y'all cook. Sometimes, the referee can't always get involved in the fight.
No, I know.
That's just me.
When he was like, I feel like I'm the guy. It's just like me and
the
you
referee can't always get involved in the fight, and sometimes you just gotta let 2 elite athletes go at it, and that's what I'm doing right now. You know what I mean?
Dude, how about the pockets on June Thomas, baby? Let's go. We got 50 in the chat.
Hey, that's a huge
That is
chunk.
a huge chunk of what we need to up this. Thank you so much.
Good job, June.
To June.
Thank you for donating for a good
shaking
cause.
in his Reeboks.
I look good in
over
blue,
there.
So
please keep running it up here for Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. But You know, we were going to change the conversation. A big part of, you know, that Territorial Cup series standings year in and year out is the fact that we beat you guys in basketball.
I'm sorry, and what is basketball?
It should be the sport you cover for your son's podcast. I know they don't play good basketball over there either.
Here? Why did I know this?
Steven and Gerald are over there just like, man.
They do the Suns? I know those guys. Dude, this is crazy.
Your
you learn a lot
sucks.
on musical chairs then.
What basketball team?
Koa Peat.
What? Who? I'm so lost. I'm so lost.
Oh, Joson Sannon.
Doesn't ring a bell.
He showed us.
Jaden Quaintance?
I'm not familiar. Are these real people that you guys are talking about? Or are you guys like punking me?
They do sound like made up names.
Where's Ashton Kutcher? Like
that actually does sound like a made up name.
Yeah,
for
like
sure.
you've heard of Joson Sannon, right? It's like, no, I actually haven't. Where's he at these days?
Devin, what Eric would love to tell you what time.
Devin says, what time is Suns Kevin Durant talk? 3. That's a name I have heard, by the way. I don't know who these other people you're talking about are.
Eric, you know, obviously, okay, so we're not going to get through to you when it comes to a basketball standpoint because you're just going to deflect and pretend like you have no idea what we're talking about. Is basketball the one
with a bat, or is that a different one?
So it's okay. We talked about some serious stuff on your podcast.
Okay, you know what? I'll be a bigger guy. We can talk about basketball. We can talk about basketball.
Let's divulge into some serious stuff on this podcast. ASU makes the Peach Bowl last year. You guys make the college football playoff.
We don't have to talk about football. It's okay.
Won the Big 12 championship. No, I wanted to ask you this question. Cam Scadaboo out the door, but obviously, you know, 0 bowl wins for Kenny Dillingham thus far. You know, lots of expectations going into this season as a ranked team, Big 12 favorites. If Kenny doesn't win the Big 12 championship this year, is it time for him to go?
Yeah, you know, I think the conversation is definitely heating up. For sure. And you can clip this, by the way.
Wow, right?
Yeah,
wow.
You guys can clip this. Seed is getting hot. No, I mean, come on. I know that you're like leading that in because you want to be a troll and whatnot. Kenny could go winless this year and he wouldn't get fired.
That seems because if Kenny goes winless, then
he wouldn't get fired. He'd be on the hot seat.
Something bad would have had to have happened,
sure,
man.
Agreed.
Like to the point of like maybe he should be fired.
That's probably like an injury thing. There's no result of the season that puts Kenny on the hot seat. None. 0.
What result of the season puts Sam Levitt on fraud watch?
If he sucks, I mean that's a pretty easy question. Like if he's not good at football.
How long? Let's say he does come out and starts slow. I'll say how many weeks do you give him to like heat it up and become like the Heisman guy?
If he starts off slow, he's not winning the Heisman. He needs to have a perfect season to win the Heisman, especially for Arizona State. There's no starting slow. You need to be undefeated in the regular season or damn near close. You need to be competing for a Big 12 championship, and Sam Levitt needs to start week 1 by dominating.
I'm more so saying if he doesn't do that, how many weeks do you give him to your like, I don't know if he's that guy?
I would say give him like 3 to 4. If he doesn't dominate in non-con, that's concerning. But if you get 1 or 2 games into conference play and he hasn't stepped up to the level that you expect him to, or he's plateaued, I'd say that's slightly concerning. But I do think that there's a chance that there's an adjustment period for him, and he had to adjust for the first half of last season and then really turned it on for the second half. I think if you want him to hit his ceiling, he can't hesitate. He's got to hit the ground running, but in order to win the Big 12 and in order to win a college football playoff game, you just need him to be operating at the highest level at the end of the season. I think they can win games without him being a Heisman level quarterback, but I don't think that they can go as deep as maybe some fans hope they can without him being on that level.
I think it's very clear. Even the downside of a Sam Levitt, like even if he's not the Heisman guy that maybe you guys want him to be, like he's still a very good college quarterback.
Yeah, I think his floor is pretty high. I don't think that he's going to end up being trash.
There's no
physical
world where he's
attributes,
not good. Yeah.
The physical attributes, the instincts there as well. Like worst case scenario, he'll be. I don't even say check down guy. He's got such a strong arm. I don't know if he reaches he's going to be the best quarterback in the country, like bar none all season. Like nobody's even close. I think those are high expectations. Definitely his ceiling, definitely possible, but I don't see a world where he's a bad quarterback. He's also a very hard worker, and he's got a great infrastructure around him. That's the thing. That's the thing. That's why you guys sucked last year, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. So, like, obviously, if I was to clip what you just said and go back to, I guess I know we weren't doing the show at the time, but like even my own personal opinions, if you had a camera on me in real life, I would have been saying similar things about Noah Fafita, just in terms of like, there's no world where Noah Fafita is bad. And I think a lot of people would have said Noah Fafita was bad last year. But also at the same time, in an ASU perspective, Marcus Arroyo is still calling plays for ASU. Kenny Dillingham's still wearing the headset at ASU.
The only loss for offense was Cam Scadaboo.
Yeah.
And that's a big loss, but it's a player. right? Like it's not
and
the
it's a
infrastructure.
running back, which is the easiest replaceable position.
And
Obviously,
they have depth there.
Scat is a needle mover and he's a game changer. But even the guys that you bring in are going to be good football players.
Yeah.
Even if they're not Cam Scatterbo game changer level. But I agree. Like I think that this Mississippi State game in week 2, where you have to travel to Mississippi State and play in a hostile environment, like that's obviously not a great team, but it will be interesting to see how Sam Leavitt plays in that environment without a Cam Scatterbo right next to him. And let me tell you about those NAU guys.
Yeah.
You got to watch out for those guys. Don't.
I literally saying,
don't skip 1 week.
If ASU pulls and UofA against NAU, I will significantly lower my expectations for the season.
That I won't even.
I'm being dead
obviously, the NAU game where we lost was horrific and the worst thing ever. But the NAU game last year was almost equally as bad. Don't you agree, Kevin?
No,
that was unwatchable, dude.
Yeah.
With the expectations that Arizona had going into last season and putting up like 17 points in a game with T-Mac and Noah Fafita against NAU, like that's just not okay.
It's brutal to like come into a season being like, yeah, I know we have an unproven head coach and some new staff, but like our talent on paper is there and things are going to be fine. Like we should be good this year at the minimum. And then you're like limping through games in the non-conference.
First 3 weeks is when I knew you guys were trash.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. It's
I thought you guys were going to be good last year. I didn't think Brett Brennan was good, but
yeah, I mean, you probably thought like the floor was like 6 wins.
Yeah, I thought you guys were a bowl team. I thought you guys were a high-end, middle of the pack Big 12 team. Obviously that didn't happen, and I'll give you guys credit, I guess, as much as I can. But there were a lot of also other extenuating circumstances with injuries. You guys are ravaged by that.
Oh, our whole defense was hurt,
and that's. I mean, if ASU deals with a bunch of injuries, I don't think it'll be as bad as UofA because I think there's more depth and infrastructure there. Yeah, but it would significantly cap their ceiling. Like that's just sports, right? I'm shocked that this has been a football-centric conversation. I mean, I feel like that's a massive win for me.
You literally refused to. It was the worst podcast of all time when we were trying to talk basketball. So I was talking about golf. I didn't realize that basketball was on the table here. Better in golf too. But yeah, no worries.
Are you?
How long do we have this guy on the show for, Damon? How long? Is there a minutes requirement?
No, there is not a minutes requirement. But I did feel like Eric's antagonization was somewhat helpful towards maybe getting some Arizona fans to put some money out of their pockets into the pockets of Big Brothers Big Sisters.
I'll always say this: you guys have a good basketball program.
Thank you.
I'll give you that. Hot
take.
And I would like it if Arizona State also had a good basketball program. That would be a very welcome sight for sore eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I there's part of me that is competitive in-state rivalry for basketball would be fun, but then there's part of me that's like, their biggest game each season is whoever we play in the tournament, and it's like I don't want you guys to have good anything. But from a football standpoint, I do want this series to be competitive. I know it's easy to say when your team sucks and the other team is good, but I would have said that last year when the shoe was on the other foot. When it was
I'm not the bigger
10
guy
wins
like that.
versus 3 wins, I would have said it would be nice if this was a competitive, good football rivalry between these two teams, because these two teams are quite literally never good at the exact same time. It is always one team is on top and one team is on the bottom, and it's clear as day which one that is pretty much going into every season.
Objectively speaking, obviously games are better when both teams are good.
Yeah.
But I'm not that good of a guy. I want my rivals in every single sports to suck. I want the Lakers to suck.
I
want the Dodgers to suck. I want every single one of your programs to suck. I don't want to go into an ASU UofA football game saying, it's a toss-up. No. I want to be like, Arizona State's going to win 70-7. Oh, wait, that did happen. I want to go into like a basketball game and be like, UofA stands
violations.
No chance. Right.
Vacating wins doesn't count. It doesn't count.
It counts.
Hang
the banner.
Except that it quite literally, factually does not.
That win didn't get voided.
Eric's walking by
that win didn't
house.
get voided.
Oh, you're actually right. It was the season before that got vacated.
That win did not get voided.
The only way I come to Eric with the olive branch here is the idea of with basketball. With football, I feel it a little less because I think me and Eric are more basketball centric guys in general. But if Arizona lost a recruit to ASU, because they were similar, but I'm saying off the strength of being similar strength of programs, that would frustrate me.
We did not lose Joe Sansanin to you, Eric Ruby.
And like, because right now, if Arizona loses a recruit to ASU, you kind of know, like, okay,
hold on, Kevin. He thinks that ASU out-recruited Arizona for Joe.
No, we stole Joe Santanen from you.
Yeah, because Caleb Love returned to school, and we said, "Cool, you're going to sit on the bench for an entire season if you come here." And he said, "All right, then I won't be doing that."
He proved you wrong.
Yeah, then he sat on the bench. Then he sat on the bench for an entire season on a terrible basketball team.
I went and clipped from the Joe Santanen breaking news podcast that Shane and Totri did for Frosty Takes for ASU tomorrow, and boy, let me tell you, there are some gems in there.
I'm sure. Was Totri yelling at Arizona fans?
No, I don't think really yelling at Arizona fans. They're just like, "Oh, this is really cool. We're going to compete in the Big 12."
And then you realize you have Bobby F. and Hurley.
Hurley.
Yeah, Eric, we appreciate you coming on today, man. I know you got a busy schedule, and that was a lot of yelling and a lot of fighting. So we'll keep the rest off air. And sorry if anyone got annoyed by this conversation.
I'll have to look into this whole basketball thing. It seems exciting.
Yes, of course, definitely do so. Mr. Ruby, we appreciate you, sir. Go check out PHNX
just not
Suns.
on the stream.
Don't check out PHNX Sun Devils, but check out PHNX Suns.
Okay, I was about to say, you at least give me one of those. All right,
Kevin Durant, stuff going down every second. Our guys, Eric, Gerald, Steven, they got you locked and loaded, with all of the, up to date and around the clock coverage when it comes to Kevin Durant and what's going on. But Kevin, how do you think that went?
I think it went about as good as it could have gone, considering our guest refused to speak about one of the major sports in which
I was a lot more cordial on their show than I even gave Eric I know Eric wasn't planning on doing that on our show. He made that very clear to me beforehand, but I didn't even really give him the opportunity to. It was straight at the neck, right at the jump. And I will say, like, that I had fun doing that, but that's also like kind of why I do this for a living and why it's my life. And I'm sure that everybody else does not feel as positively about that. So like I said, if anyone got annoyed, apologies, but we're having fun over here at Spirit Week. Please donate to Big Brothers Big Sisters of America.
And like the video as well. I think you should like this video mostly because me and Damon showed a huge amount of maturity today, welcoming a Sun Devil onto our podcast. And like I said, to start the show, we all know you're not supposed to, you're never going to be, you're also not allowed to be friends with, sorry, the whole building just like vibrated. It didn't shake, it just like vibrated. You can't be friends with someone if they went, they got a noti. If you're not supposed to be friends with someone if they went to a different school, you're not allowed to do it. It's wrong. It's gross. They're evil people from an evil place, and you are to never show them any modicum, crumb of respect. So for us to do that, I think really, really shows the kind of men that we are, letting someone like that onto our great show.
Totally. If that ain't right, Kevin, I obviously did a lot of the talking in that little segment because my guy Kevin Thomas is a little bit less of a hater and a fighter as much as yours truly, a little bit more of a lover as I like to call him. So
I'm like you're like the security guard that actually carries a piece, and I'm the security guard that like carries an airsoft weapon and like hopes I don't have to brandish it.
You carry like handcuffs and a baton like UK police officers.
Yeah.
You're like
non-lethal weapons only.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I did obviously good majority of the talking there, so I feel like I should probably pass the baton to you and let you just rip this basketball take. I'll just sit here in silence the rest of the show.
All right, cool. Me. So Arizona basketball's offense. That's kind of the center of today's show. Me and Damon were talking this morning about what we should talk about, and I was thinking about how there are so many moving pieces with next year's team, both on the roster, some even on the staff as well. That the team's going to look different automatically. The sky is blue, right? But it's about like, how are those differences going to play out on the court next season? And how can it affect Arizona's standings in the Big 12? Will it be a positive impact? Will it be a negative impact? Will these pieces mesh? Will they not mesh? I think that these pieces are going to mesh, spoiler alert. But today we're going to look through some of the statistics from charts from last season. I'm getting these stats from College Basketball Analytics, CBB Analytics, if you will. And yeah, we're just going to go through some of these and talk about their impact on next year's team with the players that they do have. I think before we get into it, we probably should discuss though the what's missing, like what pieces were missing after last season ended. You had Caleb Love depart, Carter Bryant go to the draft, Henry Vasar go to UNC, KJ Lewis go to Georgetown, Conrad Martinez go to High Point, Trey Townsend go to real estate school. Yeah, real estate school. And damn, that was so mean. Yeah, I like how we both had that moment of reflection.
He's such a sweet man.
No, I know.
We're sorry, Trey Townsend. This is the number one Trey Townsend podcast.
It is
in America.
Yeah. We forgot who we are in our heart there for a second. We forgot. You know what I mean? Anyway, we're sorry, Trey Townsend.
Mr. March.
Valid joke though, but we're sorry. Yeah. So you lose those players, some key contributors, and you're thinking to yourself, how can you replace the production of Caleb Love, the potential scoring ceiling of a Caleb Love, the length and I'll say athleticism mixed with just raw potential of a Carter Bryant? It's hard to kind of gauge what you miss with a guy like Carter Bryant because his actual contributions were so, I'll say, mercurial from game to game. Like he was contributing, but is he going to put up 6 points and 8 rebounds, or is he going to put up 12 points and 2 rebounds? Like, you don't know.
Carter Bryant was a ceiling raiser, but we didn't really necessarily know what his floor even was, and still don't to this day.
Exactly, and that's why he's going to the lottery, because why let them find out what your floor is if they're going to take you in the top 15?
Yeah.
And then Henry Vasar, I think, probably is the biggest loss from last year's team. You have a 7+ footer who can, run the floor, run up, and he can get up to get back. He can defend multiple positions. He's an incredible rim protector when he wants to be. And I think next year we'll see a much improved version of a rebounder in Henry Vasar. You and I discussed last year his tip out rebounds and how ineffective they were at times, but he's quite good at tipping out the ball. That's neither here nor there.
He just tries to do it a little bit too much.
Exactly.
It's one of those situations where he does have that in his bag and he is good at it from time to time when he needs to be, but he tries it so often that there are plenty of times where you're like, hey man, just grab it with 2 hands and come down with it.
And then hit that pass.
That rebound.
Yeah, the pass will be there, most likely. I'm with you on that, yeah. And then you also, like I said, you lose Conrad Martinez and Trey Townsend. Conrad Martinez, kind of that backup point guard, break in case of emergency kind of guy off the bench. Like if you really are, your offense is in the mud and you just need a shake up, like against an ASU or a team like that, you throw Conrad Martinez in there.
Biggest 3 of his career.
Yes, biggest 3 of his career.
We were in the building. Coined by Shane Diefenbach.
Where were you when Conrad Martinez hit that corner 3?
Means everything.
Yeah, but I know he's not maybe the greatest player. He might not even be the goodest player. That's not a word, but he did contribute in that backup point guard role. And I think when you listen to Tommy Lloyd talk about Conrad's role on last year's team, you do realize that while he didn't put up the biggest numbers, he was important to what Arizona was doing, even if he wasn't on the court all the time.
I'm sure at practice he also gave them a little bit of a different look. Probably a very good scout team type of point guard when you're playing a high tempo team, right? So yeah, I mean, obviously, I think both of us feel that Arizona upgrades at that backup point guard spot, but totally.
Yeah, and then you also lose Trey Townsend, who provided you some. I'll say, for all the jokes we made and just made 10 seconds ago about Trey Townsend, he did provide some much needed size to Arizona last year. He did provide some much needed strength out there. I know it didn't always play out the way that you would imagine it to play out, but his role on last year's team was vital to Arizona, who didn't have Mo Krivas in the lineup anymore, and you do have to play Trey Townsend as more of a 4 kind of a player, even though at the end of the year we did see him have success as utilize more of a traditional 3 in a way, where he could kind of use more of those offensive skills that he refined at Oakland. You know what I mean? Where he was the guy and the offense ran through him, and then you go to Arizona and nothing is ran through you. In fact, if you touch the ball, that might be the one time you touch it on this possession.
I'll push back on that a little bit because I think early in the season they tried to run a lot through Trey Townsend, and almost to a fault where they were losing plenty of games until Tommy Lloyd was like, you know what, we got to stop letting him just ISO at the top of the key and try to take a guy off the dribble because he just doesn't have that at this level.
This is semantics, but I agree with you. I'll just say, to amend my argument to make it more whole, I would say that maybe he wasn't not going to get the touches. But I think if you're Trey Townsend, you're not the guy that's going to – the offense isn't going to flow around and end up at Trey Townsend, right? The offense is going to run through someone else. And then we also have – full stop. We have 2 – on my side of things, it says 2 anonymous donations, but I think the anonymity has just been wiped clean by your dad that says he was inspired by my mom. And we have 2 donations here on my side, a $10 donation and a $50 donation. Huge donos in the AZ Wildcats podcast chat. Thank you. Big brothers, big sisters of America also thanks you. The children thank you. The world thanks you, because we are the world.
We are
the
world.
children. and we are Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. That should be their thing. They should just rip the whole thing. I don't know. Give me a raise. Anyway.
We are now, I will say, Kevin, we are now at almost $7,000 to our 10,000 goal at All City as a whole, which is just awesome. And on a Wednesday here, feels like our goal is extremely reachable. So shout out everybody who's donated. And if you can, please do give anything that you have available to you. It helps, goes to a good cause. So appreciate everybody who's donated already.
It goes to a great cause, and we do appreciate you guys. Continue to donate, continue to contribute to Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America, because it helps out, kids in need. And like, honestly, when you see, real quick side note, when you see like poorly adjusted adults, like not well-adjusted people, just not socially, like they're antisocial, but not in like they avoid it, but just like their way of communicating rejects people away from them or repels people. Like, they probably just needed a friend growing up, you know what I mean, to understand how to interact with others and just have things to share. Damon and I were talking about the importance of, like, you ever just see a tweet and you're like, who tweets that? Like, that could have been kept in the drafts.
Yeah.
That person just needs a group chat of friends to send that thought to,
it's
where it
always
would
the
just
guys
go
who-
into the void.
Totally.
And you're not just shouting it to millions of people. Like, you need a big brother or a big sister to just talk with sometimes. So if you resonate with that, donate to Big Brothers, Big Sisters. As we continue to break down Arizona's offense, Damon, Trey Townsend is where we left off on. What I was saying was, the offense is not going to flow and end up with Trey Townsend getting like in the flow of an offense look. We're going to run the offense through you early, Trey. And if you get going, you get going. Otherwise, you're probably not going to see much of the rock the rest of the way, because that's not working. So I do think it put a little bit of pressure on him to really get going too early and not like find his offense within the flow of the game. It was like, here's the Trey Townsend sets. Outside of that, he, I think, had a lot of trouble finding open spaces in the offense. So moving into next year, right, you have 2025, 26, a much different looking roster. Like I said, we lose all those players we just alluded to, but you bring in players like Koa Peat, Brayden Burries, Dwayne Aristode, Ivan Kharchenkov, Sidi Gueye, Mabil Mawut, Evan Nelson, Bryce James. Damn, am I missing anyone? It's a long list. It's a long list.
You say Kharchenkov?
I think I did. Wow. Damon, I don't know if we're going to have to wear shirts. I don't think we're going to have to wear. Gerald is a smart guy. Maybe he can do the math for us. I don't know. But we do have more donations in the chat. My mother donated 34, and then another anonymous $5 donation. So let me do the quick math here. 50 plus 10, that's 60 plus 50. Then you got 110, and then you got 144, and then you got 149 with the $5 donation. And Damon, what was the total we had to reach?
I think 142, Kevin.
I
will say, we do have the benefit of going second, but I'm taking my W.
They accepted the bet. They accepted the bet.
It was actually initiated by both Ruby and Shane. So, and by the way, Shane doesn't get off scot-free in this. He was part of the initial process. I'm putting a UofA shirt on Shane too. That's the whole beat.
He's saying no. I think he's probably trying to say no to that one. I'm sure he's saying no to that one.
That
but
sucks.
I honestly, Damon, that is incredible that we avoid wearing ASU shirts on this day, because when I heard that,
we're not done yet, though, Kevin. We're not done yet. Keep running up these super chats, or I guess they're not really super chats, but donations to BB S. I'm not getting the acronym right, but Big Brothers Big Sisters of America.
BBBS.
Anything I said right there was not going to be the right thing.
Donate to the charity that we are working with today that we have mentioned multiple times. And yeah. Get some good karma going for yourself, as you already got me and Damon avoiding the ASU shirt stuff, which is beautiful. When you said that on the show today, I did cringe a little bit. I was like, oh, I'm involved in this bet now.
It's so like, I'm so out on doing things like that just for like, say, like a simple game or something. Like, I would have said hell no, but doing it for a good cause, I can get involved in that.
Doing it for a good cause. And also, like, the more I thought about it, and I'm sure this is where your mind was as well as mine now, is there's no doubt as to whose chat is more charitable, as to whose chat would come through for them when they need them most. It's the Wildcats, right? Like, it is what it is.
On the Sun Devil show, I said ASU fans are notoriously uncharitable.
Well, that's not going to end up on a Frosty Cold Take, because We whooped them. And let's just run it up. Like Damon said, let's run it up. You know, they always talk about 70-7, gross, whatever. That's because they ran it up on purpose. You know what I mean? Give us something to 70-7 about right now by donating to Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, so that for months on end until we do one of these again, or if I don't know if we're gonna do one next month, whatever, we got to be able to talk a little bit of smack to Eric Ruby and Anthony Totri, saying, "Oh, whose chat donated this much? Whose chat donated that much?" I want to be able to do that. So please continue to donate. And then let's break this the newcomers in before we get into our break.
70-7. I love that.
Indeed. We just need one of those, right? And it's for a good cause. Like, what could be a more fulfilling 70-7 than that?
Oh, what means more at the end of the day, guys?
Oh, a football game that you actually didn't take part in, didn't suit up, they don't even know you exist.
We're making change in this country. Damn it.
Indeed. Anyway, back to the basketball stuff. I'm sure the donations are just gonna roll in as we start talking. You add Koa Peat, you add Brayden Burries, you add the entirety of the upcoming recruiting class for Arizona, and it's going to completely reshape the way I think Tommy Lloyd looks at his offense, because you also have a return of Mo Krivas, Damon, and we know from the early start of last year that Mo Krivas was going to be a huge part of what Tommy Lloyd did offensively last season until he went out with that unfortunate injury. Now he comes back, but the landscape has completely changed around him. How will Tommy Lloyd utilize him? When we were talking to Reggie Geary yesterday, I thought it was really interesting how, the idea that, yes, Krivas is going to slow down the offense. He inherently is. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not talking about slow it down from, a points perspective. I'm talking about from a pace perspective, right? He's just too big to be sprinting up and down the court, like a Koa Peat in like a small ball 5, right? But like you are able to mix and match a lot more with your bigs this year in a way that you weren't last year. And I think that allows Tommy Lloyd to play a team like Houston in multiple ways. I think like what happens when Arizona plays Houston sometimes is Arizona's offense last year had one speed.
Totally.
When it was successful, it had one speed, and it was fast in transition, turning teams over, getting out, and then scoring on the other end. When teams were able to slow down Arizona, it was a desert for buckets. They were walking for miles before they got a drop of water.
Caleb Love was hitting that day.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Exactly. How many times did you and I have a conversation on a post game about another 4 or 5 minute stretch with no buckets for Arizona? Right? You can't have a half-court offense that is completely ineffective and expect to make it deep into March. I know we were hoping against hope there at the end versus Duke, and they still almost got it done. But you can't. The half-court offense fails you. Yeah. Right? Next year, I'm going to ask you this question, but I don't foresee that being a problem next year for Arizona with the likes of a Brayden Burries who can attack off the dribble, with the likes of a Koa Peat who is an athletic freak and can attack off the dribble, because he's going to be playing 4s and big 3s, guys that aren't as quick side to side. So I think he's going to be able to utilize his athleticism. You got Jaden Bradley, who's great at running an offense in the half court if the right pieces are around him. I really do think that Arizona's half-court offense is going to look much improved next season, Damon. What do you say about that before we get into our next break and break down some charts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Jaden Bradley, you've seen him in some of these bigger games, right, where he's been more successful in 2 tournaments in a row where he's had good tournament games and good tournament showings, even from a jump shooting standpoint and whatnot. It seems like he elevates a little bit in those environments. And let's be honest, like you're going to face a lot more. You're going to have a lot better half-court offense in the tournament than you will in the regular season because you're just playing a different caliber of team most likely. So I think that he's proven that when the going gets tough, that he is that type of player who elevates a little bit. And Caleb Love, obviously, like he's such a hot and cold guy. And I don't want to ever say that he like shrunk in the moment because I think he always wanted it. But there are definitely times where Caleb Love struggled. And, I think that you have a somewhat of a similar volume type scorer in Brayden Burries. But it's possible you're getting a slightly higher ceiling maybe with a Brayden Burries just in terms of, does he have a little bit more efficiency to his game potentially than a Caleb Love may or may not have. But that being said, I don't want to say that you're improving because Caleb Love was, he's an All-American type of talent. Like he provides so much intangibles too that you can't really even put a number to. I think that in general, this team, we've talked about the 4 position. Like, no team in the country that's was ranked but going into last year and then going to be ranked going into next season is going to see as major of a facelift at that spot than Arizona will. And that's not to trash our guy, but Koa Peat is just a different level of player. And, I expect Koa Peat to be the best player on this team next year. And you're going from that being somewhat of your black hole to that being potentially your best player on the entire roster. I think that makes a massive difference. We talked yesterday a little bit about Mo Krivas and what that back to the basket ability gives Arizona. I think that you definitely could. I think that what you lose, because I do think, and we'll talk about this in a second, I do think with the players out, you do lose a little bit of your transition aspect. You lose a little bit of that fast-paced ability, and you become a little bit less of a defensive team and more of a balanced team. And that with that balance comes a better half-court offense, but maybe a slightly worse transition offense while still being a good transition offense. So I think that Arizona needed that. Like, you can't just have be like 80-20 where we need our transition offense to be, if we're going to be successful and our offense is going to look good, we're going to need to be running and gunning 80% of the time and in the half court 20% of the time. You need that to be a lot closer together. I'm not saying that was the number, just making a number up in my head. I think that I think Arizona is going to do well by being more balanced next season. And, we got some charts for you, a little bit more statistical breakdown right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. So let's talk about Circle K first. Circle K is America's thirst stop. And if you are not a member of the Inner Circle reward system yet, you are a person that hates money. I will look you dead in the eyes and say you hate money. It's money that you could be saving and donating to a good cause potentially, Kevin, that you're saving at the tank. When you sign up for the Inner Circle reward system, you save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Then you save 3 cents off per gallon every time you fill up at the tank after that, until you become a premium member like me, like Kevin, like all of our friends here at PHNX Sports. Pretty much, we got to find out who we can now make fun of Kevin, who's not a premium member of the Inner Circle.
I bet
now
Eric
that
Ruby's not.
Yeah,
I feel like Eric Ruby's not.
Totri and Ruby definitely don't seem like premium member type of guys, but we're premium members over here, and it really is not a threshold that takes too long to get. So all you have to do is download the app from the App Store, whatever App Store you use, Google Play, Apple App Store, whatever. Download it for free, sign up on your phone, put an email in, choose a password. It is that simple. It takes 2 minutes to sign up. You just plug that number in at the tank when you fill up at Circle K, and the savings are right there in front of you. You can get 79-cent Polar Pops, 99-cent Frosters, 3 for $7 Ghosts, 3 for $5 Gatorades, and you save 30 cents off per gallon on fuel when you buy 3 Celsius or more, whether that's the 12 or the 16 ounce. Even they got their Circle K watermelon ice exclusive flavor, Kevin. All types of promotions going on, all with the Inner Circle. Sign up now, join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details.
You can get whatever you want at Circle K, and you can do whatever you want at Gila River Resort and Casino, because you do you at Gila River Resorts. Damon and I were talking pre-show. UFC 317 is going down June 28th.
Kevin is
Ilia
hyped.
Tuporia, Charles DuBronx Oliveira. It's literally a cannot miss main event. And the best place to watch, whether it's that, whether it's basketball, whether it's College World Series, whether it's, whatever else is going on, NBA Finals. I know the NHL playoffs just ended. Shout out to Damon's Panther. But Gila River is the place to watch at their BetMGM Sportsbook. It is the classiest sportsbook, I will say, that I've been to. You also have the Prime A Shula Steakhouse, which is incredible. Mm-hmm. You got all different types of bars, slots, table games. Gila River, it is the place to be for your staycations, vacations, anything you need, because you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. So make sure to check out playathila.com for more details.
Kevin, I'm laughing right now, and I don't even know if I should say this, but I'm just going to do it because we're here with, all of our closest friends and family in this chat.
Strong start to any sentences. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to do it.
We were talking about potentially bringing on one of the hosts of DNVR Buffs, maybe to be on the show today for Musical Chairs Day. Maybe talk a little bit of Colorado with the back and forth that Colorado, Arizona fans have had recently. That would have been something. Because I just got a notification that Shedeur Sanders was cited for driving a 101 miles per hour early Tuesday morning per police records in Cleveland, Ohio.
Can you blame the guy?
June, are you listening to your son? Tom, are you listening to your grandson? Does that sound like a guy who's driving safe on the streets of Phoenix?
It didn't say what the speed limit was. It didn't say what the speed limit was.
There is not a speed limit in this country that's over 100, brother.
I know, and yet every day on the freeway, if you had a little beep, 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 beep speedometer, I'm sure it's 95.
I'm pretty sure I've seen you drive 101 down 7th Street before, Kevin.
It's impossible.
After we left work.
Well, it's not impossible, but like it's not. It didn't happen. I'm sure I could get my car up to 101, but
so you say.
I'm sure I could.
Allegedly.
Yeah. I don't know. Damon has this misconception that I'm an extremely unsafe driver all the time. When he's seen me drive.
Yeah, it's just when he's going home after a long work day where he has no place to be that he drives unsafe.
No,
that's totally how most people
I probably drive unsafe if I was to give a percent to it, like 15% of the time. That's an honest percentage, I think. If I had to break it down, 15%, I should probably be driving a little safer. 85% of the rest of the time. Come on.
When you're on your way to work, you're strolling in. But when you're leaving work, you're like, I gotta get home to Jack, man.
Hey man,
ASAP.
Hey man, if you guys in the chat have seen my dog, you get it. Anyway, let's talk these charts because we also have exclusive Koa Peat clips to play for you guys. Our guy Saul Bookman was in Colorado Springs, as you guys know. We talked to him yesterday. He got to talk to Koa Peat for about 5 minutes. That full interview will go up on our YouTube channel later today. And yeah, we have some clips for that later in the show.
Exclusive Koa Peat interview. No one else.
Literally no one else. Yeah. So we will have that for you on our YouTube channel in full later. We do have clips on the show today, but for now, let's break down some quick charts related to Arizona's offense in 2025-26. So this is the shot chart, like a hot zone where they took and made their shots for the 2024-25 season, last season, for I think the top 6 teams in the Big 12. You got Arizona, you got Houston in there, Texas Tech, Iowa State, BYU, and KU. And what stood out a lot to me on this is Houston's ability. Look at that right side of the three-point line. You think of Houston, I think, as, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think of Houston as like a slow down, beat 'em up kind of a team. And clearly they were more balanced than, the perception is. And then you look at a shot chart like BYU's where it is all threes and dunks, threes and layups, which is that is the pro game right now.
BYU's is beautiful.
BYU's is beautiful because it's an NBA style of system where you're looking for the highest percentage shots and also open threes. So it's either threes or high percentage shots. And then you have a team like, Texas Tech, who had, I think, maybe a less evolved version of that same style. As you see, they did venture out into the mid a lot more than BYU did, but they were a lot less successful from three. And they also took, it looks like they were taking a lot more threes from like beyond the break than BYU was. A lot of corner threes for BYU last season. Like I said, high percentage shots and dunks from the three for BYU. And here's Arizona's. Arizona's is quite balanced. Dare I say, outside of Houston's, it's the most balanced shot chart here. You have a healthy amount of under the basket shots. You have a healthy amount of mid-range shots. And you have a healthy amount of three-point shots. The problem is, Damon, almost none of those zones are dark red, which means that you're not making the amount of shots that you need to, even though you're taking those shots. And I think that we've alluded to it, but this is a more visual representation of the idea that Arizona's offense was good last year, but the shots did not fall, and you did not have the shooting to reward your offense when you got open shots last year, Damon. And so what stands out to you when you look at these shot charts from last year in relation to Arizona's offense?
Well, number one, you want to be BYU, I think, based off of what I'm looking at right now. But from an Arizona perspective, am I tripping, or is that the most blue on any of those charts that Arizona has by far the most blue between those 6 teams? And that's not just, BYU, who obviously has one of the better effective field goal percentages in the entire country last season. Houston, who obviously, is a team that made it to the national championship game. Like, Arizona has a worse shot chart than Kansas, who by all accounts, Arizona was a better team than last season. So there's a lot to clean up on that. And I think that it shows Arizona's offensive deficiencies last season, because I bet you if we were to find Tommy Lloyd charts, similar charts from seasons prior to that it would look a lot different. It would look a little bit more efficient, right? In the Pac-12 in particular. And And with a little bit more offense-heavy teams, like with a Kirk Risa and a Julius Tabelis and stuff as Umar Ballo, guys that you profile as offensive first type of players rather than defensive first type of players, where this year on Arizona, like, I think a lot of the team was defense first, no? Like KJ Lewis, even Caleb Love this year, you could make an argument was like maybe even leaned a little bit more defense first just because.
From a focus on development
Yeah,
standpoint.
He didn't really have it from an offensive standpoint in a lot of games. Jaden Bradley's definitely defense first. Like, I think that, those are – Carter Bryant only averaged 6 points per game. And not to say that he was like some stud defender all year, but I think that was definitely like what his focus, I'm sure, was when he was on the court was like, I got to handle my defensive assignment if I want to stay on the court. I just think that this team – has a lot to clean up looking at that chart.
Yeah, and they do. And I do want to address Frank K's comment here in a second that says we're still lacking 1 to 2 pure three-point shooters on this team. Could be our kryptonite, but obviously hoping I am wrong. I have not a solution, but I have a remedy for that. And I'll talk about that after I address what Damon just said about if you look back. Because I did on the database of CBA Analytics, you can go back and look at shot charts from past years. And actually, let me send you this link right now. But as I was saying, I did go back and look at 2023-24 shot chart, and it doesn't, to me, look any different than it's in our Slack. Any different than this year's, except for the actual makes. Like if you look at 2023-24's, it's pretty much the same exact profile. You have a spread out mid-range shot chart, a lot of paint touches, extending to the free throw line with your floaters that we know Tommy Lloyd loves to have his guards implement. And then you also have pretty spread out evenly amongst the three-point perimeter shot chart there. They were just making more of their threes from the hot zones. Now, on the left side of the threes, they were still pretty cold. I think this is somewhat, from a shot perspective, like a shot diet perspective, it probably has been the tale for the last couple of years of Tommy Lloyd teams. I'm assuming these charts would look similar if I continued to go back, just to varying degrees of makes and misses, right?
22-23 looks pretty damn good. It looks somewhat BYU-esque to me, where
it does.
Lots of red in both corner spots, kind of around the arc there. Definitely didn't shoot as well at the top of the key, but not like bad by any stretch.
Not
and
at
then
all.
Tons of red when it comes to inside the key there, but very blue when it comes to the mid range. But you can't be good at everything all the time, right? So I mean, I think that 22-23 chart looks pretty dang good to me. I think that's more. They also had a effective field goal percentage of over 56% that year, which is less than a percentile below what BYU had last season. So I think that's kind of the realm they need to be in. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not like perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it's not. And I think the 2022-2023 shot chart actually is illustrative of my point that I was kind of making about how because when you look at the 2022-23 shot chart, it is pretty similar in profile to the other two, but they're making their shots. And they're taking more shots from those areas, and they're making more shots from those areas because the shots are actually falling. And so to address Frank K's comment of how Arizona lacks 1 to 2 pure three-point shooters on this team, when I was going through what tools in the toolbox Tommy Lloyd has for next year, you do have multiple 3-level scorers. And when I say that, I don't mean you have multiple guys that can shoot Steph Curry from 3 and finish like Kyrie at the rim, and they got Spencer or Sean Livingston mid range from 2013. You know what I mean? Like,
that dude was cash.
I know.
Man.
I'm talking about guys that can like Koa Peat. I'm saying is the guy I'm really referencing here. He is a 3-level scorer. Koa Peat can, if he's open, step out and hit that 3. You got to defend him. You know what I mean? But it's not his game, but he can take it there. Brayden Burries is by definition a 3-level scorer. He can shoot the 3, he can get it in the mid-range, and he can drive with the best of them because he has that big frame that's built for this conference. And then it's a question mark, right? Because do you have any more guys? I know 3-level scorers are rare, right? But how much has Dwayne Aristode grown in the offseason? And honestly, I love this conversation because you're on the show, because Jaden Bradley, right? He could also become a 3-level scorer for Arizona next season if he becomes at all a threat from 3. At all. Yeah. If he can shoot the 3 with any level of consistency, he can earn that way into the 3-level scorer category.
His game opens up so much if he can just hit an open 3, man. Because if they have to respect it with his ability to get downhill, oh my God, brother, the amount of fouls that would lead to. is just unbelievable. I mean, I know he drew a lot of fouls in his career, and I don't want to say that these guys are even close to the same player, but like you look at a guy like Dwayne Wade, right? He was never a 3-point shooter, but when he got to the playoffs, he would take a 3 and he'd make it. And
he would do it in overtime too.
Absolutely, he'd do it in overtime, especially in that 2006 finals. But yeah, I mean, you just had to respect his perimeter shooting, even to like just the tiniest of extents, right? And because of that, because of how fast he was able to get downhill, you're just fouling him every single time that he's driving to the rim because you lose a step, and that's all it takes against a guy that is that quick. So yeah, I mean, that would be massive. And that's probably part of the reason why he's as good as he is in the tournament, because he does hit some open jump shots from time to time. Yeah.
So you do have 2 with the potential of 3 level scorers on next year's roster. And then from the mid-range, you have Koa Peat, Brayden Burries, Bradley, Aristode. You have a lot of mid-range shooting on this next year's team. You have a lot of versatility from the mid-range. You also have a lot of pure paint threats as well. Krivas, Awaka, Koa Peat is a paint threat.
Yeah.
And then, you have some of your bigs coming off the bench, or not bigs, but wings, I'll say, coming off the bench. Those are paint threats as well as driving threats. And so, yes, they do not have the pure shooters on next year's team outside of ADO. I'll say Brayden Burries is in that category. I think he'll be a consistent shooter. I think Evan Nelson, and this is getting to my point I'm trying to make with Frank K's comment, I think Evan Nelson is going to look like, hear me out, I think he's going to look like an outside threat next year for Arizona, because there are several guys on this team, him being one of them, that within the right offense where you have to worry about enough things, they will get open, and when they have their open shots, they will make their open shots. This is not a situation where, credit to the guy, incredible player for Arizona, very savvy pickup as well, and now he's in the NBA. But Kashad Johnson, whenever he was shooting that 3, even if he's open, you're watching it through your hands, hoping it goes in, and when it does go in, you celebrate, but you're not really confident. Like, as a fan, you're confident because you're like, oh, that's his shot. You know what I mean? I've seen him make it before. But from an objective standpoint, you're like, that might be a brick. You know what I mean? I don't feel that way about Koa Peat. I don't feel that way about Brayden Burries. I don't feel that way to an extent about Jaden Bradley. I feel like if he's taking it, I feel like it's a shot he feels like he can actually make because he doesn't shoot threes like we alluded to. ADO taking threes I feel comfortable with. Evan Nelson shot 40% last year from 3. It was on low sample size. I think it was an average of 3.5 attempts a game.
Yeah.
But is he going to be taking more 3-point attempts at Arizona than he was at Harvard? Probably not. And if he does, it's probably by a small margin, right? So I think he's going to be just as efficient in his shooting. So while, yes, Frank, they don't have any knockdown, sharpshooter, 3-point guys that are going to play a lot of minutes, but they have a ton of capable dudes. And I don't think you could have said that last year, where you just desperately needed guys that could just hit a 3. You didn't even need a guy that could go out there and hit 4 of them. You just needed a guy that when he was open could hit 1. And it wasn't like, well, he's going to have to drive. You know what I mean? Trey Townsend, he's going to have to drive. I know he hit some later in the year, but like, yeah. So I do think with the versatility that Damon was kind of alluding to earlier, Arizona's 3-point offense is going to look better next year, even though they don't have the sharpshooter, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you regarding the, not having that true sharpshooter. I mean, other than D'Orso, but again, like, he's not a guy that you figure to have like a top 5 role on this team next year, right? Like, he's not in the closing lineup, simply put. And that lineup is going to be the lineup that is, going to have to get you to where you want to go when it comes to winning games in March. But I look at, in regards to Evan Nelson, I know there are slightly different types of players, and I think that this guy was a little bit more of a combo guard than Evan is a true point guard. But, I look at a grad transfer Tommy brought in a couple years ago in Justin Kier, where, he provided pretty efficient guard play for this team. He shot 2.6 attempts per game, Kevin, 36% from 3, made 1 a game, had an effective field goal percentage of 53%, which is pretty damn good for a guard. 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Like, I could envision a world where on 7 points per game, Evan Nelson is giving you an efficient 7 points per game on a 3.5 made per game. Like, that's going to be his role. And yeah, he's not going to need to take a bunch of shots, but just be smart with the shots that he does end up getting. And I think that is a wrinkle that this team definitely didn't have last season, because when Caleb Love wasn't hitting threes, not a single other guard on this team was hitting threes because Jaden Bradley isn't taking them. and KJ Lewis is missing, 82% of them. So, which is like not even an exaggeration. That's how much he was missing 3-pointers last season. So, yeah, I think that this team, by nature of just their guard play, being more efficient from three, should improve their 3-point ability, as well as, I think Koa Peat does probably shoot better from three than a Trey Townsend did this year. Like, even though that's not going to be his game, I think he's capable, right? And you have to respect it a little bit. So I think this team naturally will get better at three, just because they were almost so bad last year. It's hard to get worse, right?
No, yeah, 1,000%. And the last chart I want to look at before we move on to our exclusive Koa Peat clips is the effective field goal percent. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier in the pod, but I thought this would be an interesting comparison, because we have the full season effective field goal percent here. And then I also have the postseason that we'll look at in a second to just see if it changed from full season to the March Madness tournament. But effective field goal percent there at the bottom on the x-axis, and then on the y-axis you have opponent effective field goal percentage there. So Arizona kind of falls in the middle there, and then you also have Iowa State and Texas Tech as I would say clearly more efficient teams from a defense to offense standpoint. You also look at BYU, man.
Dude, how are they not national champions?
I mean, I know that they're allowing 51% on their opponent field goal percent, which is markedly higher than a lot of the teams that were competing, like a Texas Tech, Iowa State, Arizona, Kansas, and look at Houston's. Like, we're talking BYU right on one end of the spectrum, where they're scoring so many points, and yes, they're letting up some points on the other end of things, but you're not going to outscore BYU if they're on top of things. Look at where Houston's at. Dead in the middle at the top of this, not letting up nothing on the defensive end, but they're also still executing at an above average, well, dare I say, dead in the middle, which is all you got to do if your opponents are only shooting 45%.
Totally.
So, and then this is the effective field goal percent from the postseason, and you see Houston, that is unfortunate for Houston, but also in the way that, things slow down, things get tighter, you're going to have a lower field goal percent. I feel confident because Arizona looks like the only team that actually stayed pat and played similar from, this is who you were all year kind of thing. They really didn't move too much. Iowa State shifts quite a bit up on the effective field goal percent. They were letting up a lot more buckets in the postseason. BYU letting up more buckets in the postseason, and also their field goal percent went down as things got tighter, got tougher in March Madness as well. So yeah, just some food for thought as we talk about the two offenses here involved multiple Big 12 offenses involved next year for Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, even like in that, it kind of makes sense looking at that, because like even in that Duke game, right? Like Arizona, I think that a lot of Arizona fans at least felt that we played about as good as a game as possible. And that Duke team was just kind of a different animal regarding how they played, and I think they were a bad matchup for Arizona because they have the size to bother Arizona, but on top of that, like, they were arguably the most skilled team in the country, and that's a dangerous combo, right? Like, Arizona was kind of a smaller team last season, but like, in order to make up for that lack of size, right? Like, you need to be more skilled than the other team, and when the other team has 3 top 10 draft picks on the other side, like, it's hard to be as skilled as them. So I just think that you kind of ran into the wrong team at the wrong time. But Arizona, like, it wasn't an embarrassing showing by any stretch, and really gave it a good game. Even we had Reggie Geary on yesterday, and he mentioned that, like, he felt like that if there was like 4 or 5 minutes in that game, that Arizona probably closes it up, and I agree with that. So
we should have told Reggie to watch our post game. We said the same thing.
Yeah. Maybe who knows? What do you mean he absolutely was watching?
No, I'm just saying clearly he didn't, or else he would have been like, as the two wise oracles sitting next to me once said after
it was a long time ago. He just got caught in the subconscious a little bit.
He's a busy guy.
He is in fact a busy guy. But yeah, this whole conversation, this whole exercise, Kevin, I think it just goes to show that Arizona needs to just become, honestly, probably sacrifice a little bit of defense for offense next season when it comes to being the version of a team that can reach that Final Four threshold. Because that last season was absolutely Tommy's most defensively locked in team, I think, because they almost had to be. because they had deficiencies offensively. And this season, I expect that to be a lot different. In that case, I think that's where you gain a little bit more balance, and that balance almost raises your ceiling because you can win in multiple different ways. You don't have to just play that one particular style that Arizona like kind of had to play last year in order to win games. And then when you ran into a team like Houston who played that same style but was better at that style than you lose both those games, because of that. So I think that this just helps Arizona kind of like now you can Tommy can throw multiple things at a team. If Houston wants to play small, we could play small. We'll go Koa Peat at the 5 if you want to, and we'll run up and down the floor, right? But like you want to play big, or you feel like you're going to put a small lineup out there against us. Well, here's Mo Krivas. He's 7'2", and he's just going to back you down. So that's where I think like this gives Tommy a little bit more chess pieces to play with next season, Kevin.
It does, and I was thinking to myself as you were giving your wise point there, Damon, that honestly I feel like the versatility that we're talking about will only come in, not only, I shouldn't say that, that's an absolute, but will most likely come into play against like the teams like Houston that want to slow you down more.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we'll see Arizona sacrifice defense for offense because they can. We just looked at the shot chart for Houston. They were not actually the most offensively effective team. They were efficient, right? But they also don't create a lot of possessions for themselves because they slow the game down so much and their defense is so good. And I think if Arizona has the horses to actually be able to sacrifice a little defense against Houston for offense against Houston, you could actually see them outduel Houston. But I think in most cases, Damon, when Tommy Lloyd's talking about where he wants to see his team, what teams he wants to play like, it's Houston, Houston, Houston. So I feel like defense is still going to be like number one for Tommy Lloyd going into next year. I don't necessarily see a huge mindset shift happening from like a play style standpoint. I think it will look somewhat similar to where Arizona found success last year, but with some new faces. And then in games where you do need a new look, they can actually go to a new look. And I think last year you had the way that they were, the way that Arizona identified that they could find success and avenues to win games.
Yeah.
But if that didn't go their way, it was kind of, what's a Band-Aid fix for the next 5 minutes so that we can get back to our game when the other team inevitably slips and we're able to capitalize, because they didn't have a second plan to go to. They didn't have a second offense to go to. Corey Williams and Saul Bookman on Mikhail Madness all last season, they said one of the main things you need as a championship team, and they're right, is a bread and butter offense. You need something that when your star is cold and when maybe this guy has a rolled ankle and is not playing for the second half, like what offense are you running that you're going to be able to get at least a bucket every couple possessions? Like you cannot, at the highest level of any sport, put up zeros for 3+ minutes and expect to win. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think Arizona's offense next year is we're going to see what you're talking about in short spurts when they need it most. But I think in general, you're going to still see Arizona and Tommy Lloyd trying to emulate what Houston's doing from an extreme efficiency and just be defensively sound as hell on that end of the ball. So I'm excited for that going forward. And should we talk a little bit of Koa Peat before we get out of here, Damon?
Yeah, let's do it. Koa Peat, obviously Saul Bookman is, or he was, I should say, he has since left, but he was in Colorado Springs at the Team USA U19 trials, and he got to talk to Arizona Wildcat, future Arizona Wildcat, Koa Peat. He got to talk to Tommy Lloyd while he was out there, some other great coaches and players. But Koa Peat is the main man, right? Like that's the ticket. And you
hear that, AJ DeBanza?
Oh, yeah.
You got your headphones turned up? Here, I'll put both cans on for you.
I'm not buying AJ DeBance's pay-per-view, that's for sure. This is a real star we're talking about right now. No, AJ DeBance still looks unreal. But Koa Peat, obviously like high expectations. We are, super pumped up to see him in an Arizona Wildcats uniform. Definitely the thing I'm most hyped about for next season, Kevin. But Saul got to talk to him. We're going to air this interview on our PHNX Sports YouTube page as a whole, but we did cut a couple preview clips that we wanted to show you real quick just to hype the people up at home.
Yeah, and so I did cut 3 of those. Here is Koa Peat talking about his time working out for the University of Arizona so far, and then also his thoughts on the elite non-conference schedule that I want to talk to Damon about before we get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the workouts at Arizona have been great. I'm settled in down there, so it's been really fun to – it's only an hour 30 minutes away from my house, so my family came down a couple of days and hung out with me and settled me in. So it's been good, and I've also been working out individually with TJ Benson, getting shots up, and then also Coach Lloyd. We've been doing we did a couple practices before we went out and just connecting with the guys out there, learning how they play, trying to build chemistry with them, and I'm excited to go hopefully compete for a gold medal and then go back to Arizona and be great with those guys. I mean, that went into my college decision, honestly. I feel like as a high-level player, I feel like I deserve to play on that stage, and I'm going to work for that and be prepared for that when the time comes, and I'm just excited to go out there and represent my state and just get better each and every day, like I keep repeating.
Yeah, and, Koa Peat, I think we have one more clip after this talking about his mindset at the USA camp up there in Colorado Springs, and he had something really interesting to say about that. But my biggest takeaway so far from the clips we've shown, and there's a couple more questions that Saul had there for the full interview as well, was the seeding question. Saul asked Koa about, when you looked at the crazy season you got coming up, what did that, how does that make you feel? And for Koa Peat to respond with, that's a huge reason actually why I'm here today, why I'm a UofA player today, is that non-conference schedule, because I'm an elite player and I believe I deserve to play on an elite stage. I think that's huge. And we've talked about how how the non-conference scheduling, we've talked about how huge that is for Arizona going forward, how it's important for seeding to play the toughest teams early so that if you do falter, you can make it up and you still look tough on the end when you played all these quad one games. It's vital to testing your team, testing their mettle, seeing where they're at early on in the year, their pain points, what you need to address, what you got to fix before it's too late. And obviously exposing the brand, it's a huge thing for that. Arizona is going to be everywhere this winter, on all the TVs, across all the airports, all the barbershops, everywhere. And I think that's huge. But one thing we haven't touched on, and Koa Peat said it right there, and I hadn't even thought about this. You're giving elite talent a stage. You're setting a stage, and all they have to do is show up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think elite players like Koa Peat, they're mental. They want to be on the biggest stage so they can show the talent they believe that they have and then use that to catapult themselves onto an even bigger stage in the NBA, right? So Tommy Lloyd, we talked about it with Reggie Geary yesterday, scheduling these incredibly tough non-conference schedules. Of course, it shows his confidence in that year's roster. Of course, it shows that Arizona's trying to have high seeding at the end of the year. Who isn't? Of course, it exposes Arizona's brand to a whole new set of people. And of course, it tests that team early.
Yeah.
But one thing we haven't talked about enough, in my opinion, and I look forward to continuing to talk about it, is how the possibly hard non-conference schedule can actually help you land elite talent and elite recruits. Because it's not something, truthfully, that I had given much credence to before I heard it come out of Koa Peat's mouth. Yeah,
I mean, I think that almost coincides with playing at a big-time program in a way. And I'm sure that there are like some programs that are, they almost transcend that. Like Duke doesn't have to play anybody. And people will want to go play for them, right?
Yeah, they're playing like UNC Greensboro or something.
I do think that it goes to show just at least that Koa Peat is like the level to which people thought that maybe he was potentially going to be an ASU player probably was never really that serious of a discussion, because he is pretty clear that he wants to be on the biggest stage, and that's not the biggest stage, right? So like, I feel like, I'm sure Arizona was always kind of his goal in that capacity, because that's what a kid from Arizona would see growing up is, oh, this is the national stage of college basketball, and I want to go play at that pinnacle of the sport. So yeah, I mean, it definitely is. It's great to hear that from a competitive standpoint out of Koa's mouth, right? Because like, it just means that, that's a guy that he's not shying away from that type of pressure, and he wants that pressure of playing in these big time games. And Arizona, I think, they didn't play to their standard in non-conference last year. And it led to a lot of, losses that they shouldn't have had, but also like not really that many big wins either. Like you could have easily beat Duke that first time at McHale. You could have beaten UCLA, but like you lose those games. And in this season, I expect things to be different, especially if this team is going to get to the place that they need to go. But as you see there, donate below. We are still doing our thing with Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, BBBSA.
Bang, nailed
if you
it.
will. But make sure you guys donate. Like we talked about, I believe we already, beat the ASU pod, which was the goal today.
That's easy money.
Who's going to wear the shirts? Everybody already knew that, the Arizona Wildcats fans are the most charitable when it comes to the universities here in the great state of Arizona. But please just keep running it up, guys. If you have $1, $2, $5, $10, $100, it doesn't matter. All of it, helps a great cause and goes a long way. Kevin, not gonna lie to you. This is Trust Tree.
Yeah, of course.
I was that anonymous $5 donation.
Hey,
I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to help out.
Putting money to a good cause.
Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. And you guys should too. I put my money where my mouth is, and why not do it for you folks at home? Please run it up. We'll be doing it the rest of the week as well. So if you're not doing it today, feel free tomorrow, Friday as well. But yeah, please donate anything that you can. We are well on the way to reaching our $10,000 goal. And here at PHNX, we really want to up what we've been able to accomplish thus far. So please, please, please help us out. Run it up. Do not send super chats. Just donate to Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. That's going to do it for us today, guys, on the AZ Wildcats podcast. I am Damon Fairall. You can follow me at Damon Dog. That's DWG. You can follow my guy, Kevin Thomas, at Kevo Post. That's KEVOPOSTS. Kevin, anything real quick before we get out of here?
Check out, be on the lookout for the Koa Peat interview, exclusive interview dropping on the channel. Great questions by Saul, asking the stuff that you actually want to hear. Elite camera work.
Oh, my God.
Elite.
You see those shots from our guy, RG?
I mean, every time Koa spoke, I was looking at, you could see his jaw move. The camera was so crisp. I was looking at bone and muscle movements.
Chill out, buddy.
In the man's face. It's crazy. You got fourth. What? I'm talking. This is science class. This is science class. I'm talking about muscles here. Get your minds out of the gutter. You're being weird. Point is, elite camera work, crispy camera work, great questions. And what else? What else can you need?
Throw our guy RG a follow at Ryan Green. And that is Green with an E at the end of it. Ryan Green with an E at the end of it. DNVR, honorary Wildcats fan, I think, at this point. RG from DNVR, our sister company over there. But also follow Saul Bookman at Saul_Bookman for the great work that he is doing out there. Shout out everybody who stuck it out for this long. Listen to me and Kevin nerd it out here at the end of the podcast. Listen to me and Eric dupe it out and go to war at the beginning of the podcast. It means so much for everybody. Thank you so much to anybody who donated. It means the world to us, and we are really trying to make a big impact here. So yeah, feel free to keep donating below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and we will see you tomorrow on a Thursday edition of the AZ Wildcats podcast. But until then, peace out, bear down,
and go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.